Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Brighton Town Board for August 23rd, 2023. I'm Bill Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor, and I'm pleased to see so many of you here in the room, as well as watching remotely on whatever medium you're using. That's what it's all about. This is local government, the government that's closest to the people, and we do well when we have your participation and feedback. So thank you for being here tonight. And to that end, we will begin the open forum portion of the meeting shortly. Open forum is the portion of the meeting when members of the public have the opportunity to share their comments with the town board. If you're watching us on YouTube or on our cable access channel, you'll have to log into Zoom in order to participate in the open forum, or for that matter, during the public hearings that we have 6 of tonight. There are detailed instructions for logging into Zoom on the Town of Brighton webpage, www.townofbrighton.org. We continue to make our meetings accessible to the deaf and hard of hearing community with our ASL interpreters. Tonight, our interpreters are Allie Fowey and Sarah Brewer. Thank you, Allie and Sarah. We appreciate you being here. As a reminder, the agenda for tonight's meeting, if you're here in the room, is on the back table. That includes not only the agenda, but all of the material that the town board will be relying on in considering and taking action on the matters that are before us this evening. All of those materials are also available on the town webpage, townofbrighton.org. And we encourage you to reference those. I will ask those of you that are able to please rise and join us in the pledge. I'll ask Councilmember Werner to lead us, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As we often do, we're going to start tonight's meeting with a proclamation, and it's an important one. August 26th is Women's Equality Day. Women's Equality Day celebrates the certification by the Secretary of State of the adoption of the 19th Amendment to the Constitution, which, as we all know, gave women throughout the United States the right to vote. Not everybody realizes that a lot of states had already given women the right to vote, starting with Wyoming in, I believe, 1876. Okay, my civics, some of that civics class I took stuck with me. That right to vote may have first been given in Wyoming, but we all know that Rochester was at the heart of all of the efforts for universal suffrage as the home of Susan B. Anthony and many of the other advocates of the right to vote. So it is particularly fitting tonight to welcome Deborah Hughes, the Executive Director of the Susan B. Anthony House in Rochester. Deborah, if you could join me here at the podium. I'll just say before I read this proclamation, the Susan B. Anthony House, I'm sure most, if not all of you have been there. It is such an extraordinary place. As a small museum, it's one that you can really feel the history, the sense of what happened there. You're walking in the shoes of great people. And so we are really fortunate to have you, and we are fortunate to have the Susan B. Anthony House and the legacy of Miss Anthony here in Rochester. So let me read this proclamation, which I will present, and then give Deborah the opportunity to say a few words. Whereas 103 years ago, the courageous and dedicated women who marched, advocated, and organized for the right to vote finally saw their efforts become a reality when, on August 26, 1920, the 19th Amendment was certified and the right for women to vote was realized. Whereas Women's Equality Day was created in 1973 to honor the tremendous efforts and sacrifices of our forebears in winning the right to vote, and to remind us that when empowered women stand up and speak out, our nation can move closer towards legal, economic, and social equity for all. Whereas today we pay tribute to our trailblazing suffragists, especially Susan B. Anthony, who boldly traveled across the nation many times over, bringing her impassioned and formidable argument for the enfranchisement of women to often raucous and sometimes riotous crowds. And whereas the National Susan B. Anthony Museum and House serves as a guardian of this history, a teacher of socio-political movements, and a bastion of hope as the autonomy of women over their own bodies is at risk to being stripped away in many states, and the hard-fought ability to live lives independent of men is diminished. Whereas women's equality remains a work in progress and a goal we must achieve, and it is fitting on Women's Equality Day to repeat Susan B. Anthony's famous exhortation, organize, agitate, educate, must be our war cry. Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, William W. Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor, and the members of our Brighton Town Council do hereby celebrate the achievements of the women from our past and our present who fight for equal rights, and thank the National Susan B. Anthony Museum and House for its revolutionary commitment to gender equality and equity. And this proclamation celebrating Women's Equality Day is signed this 23rd day of August, 2023, by myself and by my colleagues on the town board. Thank you, Deborah, for coming tonight. Thank you, Emily, for joining. And thank you, everybody that keeps the flame alive and strong at the Susan B. Anthony House. This way too. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, and the podium is yours.
Thank you very much. This is a year of anniversaries. Susan B. Anthony went to trial in Canandaigua 150 years ago, and they found her guilty of being a woman who had dared to vote. For that reason, then, Susan B. Anthony was a felon. And she wasn't alive in 1920 when the 19th Amendment passed. And it had been 72 years since they first proposed the idea of women getting the right to vote in Canandaigua. Susan wasn't there then, but it was Frederick Douglass who was one of the most powerful speakers on behalf of women getting the right to vote. The interesting thing is, after 72 years of hard, difficult work, finally getting the passage of the 19th Amendment that said no woman could be denied the right to vote on the basis of sex, but didn't prevent women of color or women of different nationalities or women who couldn't pass certain literacy tests from voting. But it's been 72 years. Secretary Bainbridge chose to sign that into act in his kitchen on a Sunday morning and invited none of the women who had worked for so many years to participate in that momentous occasion. So we appreciate that Brighton Town Council takes time to make a public proclamation of the ongoing commitment to human rights for every level. Susan B. Anthony and Marvel Comics would say that all of us are superheroes because we can possess a power that is the greatest force in all the world, and it's your vote. Thank you.
You, of course, are welcome to stay, but don't feel that you have to. unless you'd like to comment on a public hearing about a refuse district or a tree removal. In that case, please do stay. Just a couple things I want to say. I certainly don't have anything to add to what Deborah just told us all about Women's Equality Day and how important that is, and that the fight is not over. We take these steps, we celebrate the great step of the 19th Amendment, but as you point out, we continue to face blowback, whether it's women college students or women in the military or whomever, women of socioeconomic class for whom it is made more difficult to vote, along with others who, for whatever reason, people are not as excited to see them voting, and that's a struggle we all can play a part in. A couple things I want to talk about. First, you know, as someone, we all of us up here at least work part of our day on Elmwood Avenue. Some of us both live and work on Elmwood Avenue, and I'm excited that the county is repaving Elmwood Avenue, and that when the project is completed, it will include not only a traffic calming road diet, but also bicycle lanes. But I also understand that during the course of construction, traffic down Elmwood Avenue is a little more challenging than it is under normal conditions, and I appreciate everybody's patience in that. I can give you an update. Again, it's a county project, and I think it's important to note that, but weather permitting, the county plans to begin their paving of this first segment from Winton Road down to approximately Temple Brith Kodesh, starting tomorrow. They have made the decision to do the project in segments, so the entire Elmwood segment will not be under construction. The project will run from Winton Road down to the city line close to Goodman Street. I really appreciate the fact that the county DOT, and in particular the county executive, listened to us, listened to Reconnect Rochester, listened to other advocates for bicycle safety and safety in general in incorporating the road diet and bike lanes into this project. I also appreciate that our request, they started the project at the 12 Corners end. So when school opens in just a little while now, that portion of the project will be completed, and I think that will make it easier as school begins. I appreciate that they did that, started work down there. I appreciate that they listened to comments from the town of Brighton and from the community right up to the very start of the project to make sure that the bike lanes could best serve cyclists. The original plan was not going to have a bike lane go quite far enough down at the 12 Corners end. It is a little tough to transition from the 12 Corners, which is one of the more notable but challenging intersections in Monroe County. You can't just immediately go from 4 lanes to 3. But what they have done and what they will be doing is tapering the road from 4 lanes to 3, similar to what you see on East Avenue. If you want to see what this project will look like, go over to East Avenue in Brighton and in Pittsford, and you'll see it. Conditions are a little different here on Elmwood, but it was really important to us that bike lanes would be available past Hollywood. And for the cyclists that are going to school, either to the high school or 12 Corners Middle School, they'll be able to turn down Hollywood towards the south and immediately turn left on Greenwich, which gets them to Winton Road, where there is a pedestrian-activated traffic signal to get folks across the street. So that's going to be the plan. It is the town's plan to construct our second bicycle boulevard, which will largely traverse the Hollywood-Rhinecliff corridor in town. Our goal with bicycle boulevards is to give cyclists alternatives to the heavily traveled arterial streets. Of course, we have the one that goes from the back of Town Hall here, up across Monroe Avenue, and ultimately up to where Hillside hits Highland and crosses then into the city. So you're going to see all of those projects going on. And, you know, Elmwood Avenue, speeding has been an issue, going through traffic signals has been an issue. It is well known among the traffic engineering field that these road diets going from 4 lanes to 3 have a traffic calming effect. So not only do we expect that this will help reduce speeds on Elmwood Avenue, but obviously the bicycle lanes will make it safer for cyclists. But pay attention, drivers on Elmwood, when this project is done. We hope we see more cyclists, and please do pay attention to them. Now, for those of you that drive on Westfall, you'll also see some paving going on, not quite the same type of project, but work is being done repaving Westfall. But you're also going to see the Winter Farmers Market, and that project across the street from the Latter-day Saints Church on Westfall in Buckland Park is really making great progress now as well. The barn, as we've said, has been renovated. It's beautiful on the inside. But more importantly, the addition to the barn construction is moving right along, and I'm particularly happy. You know, every day like today, when we don't get any rain, it makes it possible for those folks to make more progress. Yesterday, if you drove by, you would have seen work being done on the roof. So the project is being enclosed. Once that's done, the HVAC work can be done, the electrical work can be done. And the plan still is that that addition to the barn and the entire winter farmers market facility will be completed this fall in time for the winter farmers market season this year. And I do say winter farmers market, I get asked this a lot. The summer farmers market is staying, certainly for the foreseeable future, at the Brighton High School parking lot. Geographically, it's a great location. There are some amenities that location doesn't have that actually will probably be a little easier for market users at the winter market location. But obviously, geographically, people love having the market in the Brighton High School parking lot. All you have to do is go there on a Sunday morning and see the crowds. They're enormous. It is a big boon to local agriculture, to local businesses, but it's also a boon to people who want to buy local, buy sustainable, in many cases buy organic food and food products. So it's peak season out there, and I encourage everybody to come out to the market this Sunday and every Sunday till we go back inside from 9 to 1 on Sunday mornings. All right, now we will begin our open forum. We hold that at the beginning of every town board meeting. The open forum is an opportunity for members of the public to address the board concerning any matter relating to the town, whether or not it's on our agenda this evening. I would note that if you are here for one of those 6 public hearings, 5 of the public hearings relate to extensions to our town refuse district, and 1 involves the potential removal of certain town trees in the town right-of-way. But if you're here for one of those public hearings, I would encourage you to wait until we call those public hearings. We will do that very shortly. That way your comments will be included in the record. But if you are here in person and want to speak during the open forum, you'll simply be able to raise your hand and we'll recognize you. If you are participating in the meeting remotely, as I mentioned before, If you want to participate in the open forum or in any or all of the public hearings, you must first join the meeting on Zoom. The detailed instructions for doing that are on the town's webpage. If you are in the Zoom and would like to participate in the open forum or a public hearing, use the raised hand function. You'll be recognized by our host, and you'll be unmuted and have the opportunity to speak. I would ask anybody that's speaking during the open forum, whether it's in person or remotely, to please, if you would, state your name and address. Please limit your remarks to about 3 minutes. I will give you a 30-second warning before you get to the 3 minutes. If you have questions, we may not be able to answer them tonight, particularly if they do relate to a matter that's not on our agenda this evening. But our goal tonight, and at every town board meeting, is to give you, the public, the opportunity to share your thoughts with the board and for us to be able to listen thoughtfully to your words. So I would ask, if you do speak during the open forum, to please direct your remarks to the town board and not to the room or to other speakers. Please refrain from any personal attacks or from outbursts of any kind during the open forum, out of respect for the other speakers and for the time of everybody that's here tonight. So again, if you want to talk during the public hearing, wait, we'll get there very shortly. But if you would like to speak to the town board during the open forum, please raise your hand and we'll give you the opportunity to do so. I don't see anybody here in the room. I don't see anybody on Zoom with their hand raised to speak. So we'll move on with the meeting. Chris?
We have no one for the open forum. I move that we approve the agenda.
Second.
We want to take the tree first.
I think so, yeah.
So
Thanks,
that
Chris.
change, I suggest.
Well, let me, oh, yes, with, you want
Change to
to,
the agenda. I
So what we're
suggest we
going-
Take the trees first.
are all of you here to talk about one or more of the trees? Is there anyone here to talk about the refuse districts? Okay, so we're about evenly divided.
Then
Well, which district?
Move to approve it as drawn.
Okay. So we're going to do the refuse districts first.
Well,
I think,
are there multiple, is it all one district or multiple?
We're one district, where we are.
okay,
Oh, Roby.
all right. Well, then, let's do,
Do a little reorder.
It would be a little confusing to go back and forth.
yeah.
The rest of the refuse districts are going to go fast.
Yeah, let's keep it as is. Thanks, Ken.
That would be my motion.
So your motion is to approve the agenda as it is. It was made by Chris, seconded by Robin. Any discussion? Any more discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. As I mentioned, we do have 5 public hearings tonight that relate to refuse districts. The first one is proposed extension number 7 to the Brighton Consolidated Refuse District, which relates to a single property located at 295 Avalon Drive. And I'll ask the town clerk, has the necessary legal notice been given in this matter?
Yes, Supervisor, it was published in the August 7th edition of the Daily Record.
Thank you. And legal notice having been given, I declare this public hearing to be open. Steve or Ken, do you want to address this public hearing or the refuse district public hearings in general?
So I'd like to just put this comment on the record for this public hearing and all of the public hearings, so if we could copy it into each one of the public hearing records. What we're doing here is extending the consolidated refuse district to, in some cases, just one property, in other cases, a group of properties predominantly on one street with some additional properties on adjacent streets. Last year, we consolidated all of our individual refuse districts into one consolidated refuse district to make things better for the administration of those districts. And so now, just like
cheaper.
just like our consolidated sewer district, this is simply an extension process under town law. We have the necessary signatures in each and every one of the cases, and there is going to be a charge to each home added on a benefits-derived basis, which means they will all be paying the same rate as everyone else in the consolidated sewer district for garbage service. And those rates reflect a substantial savings over what individuals pay for private individual contracts. So just those comments copied into everything, please.
Great, thank you. Is there anyone here tonight that would like to speak to the public hearing for proposed extension number 7 to the Brighton Consolidated Refuge District property located at 295 Avalon Drive? Anyone from the board that would like to address that matter? Hearing none, I declare this public hearing to be closed with the town attorney's statement to be added to the record. You have a motion before you, Chris.
Bill, I move that the proposed extension number 7 to the Brighton Consolidated Refuge District be approved in accordance with the resolution before us.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mailing?
Aye. The next public hearing is proposed extension number 11 to the Brighton Consolidated Refuse District. Dan, has the necessary legal notice been given on this matter?
This notice was also in the August 7th Daily Record.
Thank you. Then, notice having been given, I declare this public hearing to be open. I would again ask that the comments from the town attorney be included. This public hearing relates to properties located on Winslow Drive, as well as properties located at 35 Parkwood Avenue, 995 Highland Avenue, and 1011 Highland Avenue, requesting this extension of the Brighton Consolidated Refuse District. Ken or Steve, any comments specific to this matter? Is there anyone tonight that would like to address extension 11 to the Brighton Consolidated Refuse District? Winslow and those couple of other adjoining properties. Hearing none, I declare this public hearing to be closed, and I'll ask Councilmember Corrado to.
Yes, in the matter of the proposed extension number 11 to the Brighton Consolidated Refuse District, I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask the town clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mailing?
Aye. The next public hearing is on proposed extension 13 to the Brighton Consolidated Refuse District. Dan, has the necessary legal notice been given in this matter?
Yes, Supervisor, this was also in the August 7th edition of the Daily Record.
Thank you. Legal notice having been given, I declare this public hearing to be open. In addition to the comments the town attorney previously made, which will be incorporated in the record of this, I would just note that this proposed extension includes properties located on Sunset Drive, as well as properties located at 19 Orchard Drive, 218, 220, and 226 Meadow Drive. Is there anyone here in the room that would like to address proposed extension 13 to the Brighton Consolidated Refuse District? I see no hands, and I also see no one on our Zoom. There being no comments, I declare the public hearing for proposed extension 13 to the Brighton Consolidated Refuse District to be closed. And is there any discussion from the town board? Hearing none, can I have a resolution from Christine?
Certainly. In the matter of the proposed extension number 13 to the Brighton Consolidated Refuse District, I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
Further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Bailey?
Aye. Now we have proposed extension 14 to the Brighton Consolidated Refuse District. And this is the proposed extension that would cover Roby Drive. Dan, has the necessary legal notice been given in this matter?
Yes, it has. The August 7th edition of the Daily Record.
Thank you. Notice having been given, I declare this public hearing to be open. I'm just looking here. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe this extension covers all of the properties on Roby Drive and no other properties. I don't believe it covers Vernon or...
There are no properties that are not located on Roby Drive. There's a good double negative for you. So it's only properties on Roby Drive. They go from number 1, 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 12, 23, 26, 44, 61, 72, 85, 90, 97. I'm sorry I'm going so fast. I just remembered what. 104, 111, 116, 119, 124, 131, 138, 147, 152, 159, 168, 175, 182, 187, 195, 207.
194, I believe it.
194, if I misspoke, 207, and 208 Roby Drive.
Thank you. Thank you, Ken. Dan has the necessary, did I ask you this already, the legal notice on this
I
one?
don't remember. I think Ken's getting paid by the word tonight. It was in the August 7th edition of the Daily Record.
Thank you. I declare this public hearing to be open, legal notice having been given. I will ask if there are if there's anyone that would like to speak to the town board concerning this proposed refuse district extension number 14 on Roby Drive. Are there any
Just to note that
Comments
my
you'd-
comments earlier should be copied into this public hearing
right,
as well.
thank you, Ken. And I would note that approximately 65% of the assessed value of properties located on Roby Drive or located within this proposed district boundary did sign the petition, above the 51% required by law. I see no one in the room. I see no one on Zoom that would like to speak. Therefore, I declare this public hearing to be closed. Christine, I'll ask you to make a motion.
I move that regarding the proposed extension number 14 to the Brighton Consolidated Refuse District, I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
Thank you, Robin. Seconded by Councilmember Wilt. Any further discussion by the town board? Any discussion by the town board? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePoncio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Bailey.
Aye. And I will note, since you're all here, I know we just received, Finance Department recently received pricing data for 2024. I don't know if you remember that price off the top of your head, Earl, but I remember it's 280 something for the year.
In this
It was,
matter number 8.
it was roughly 2%, and I can,
2.43% increase. It's resolution number 8 on the agenda tonight.
Yep, there it is. So it is. It's, that price is going to be significantly below the price that you would get if you picked up the phone and called Waste Management or any other hauler. And for 2024, it will be, again, Waste Management providing those services to the entire Brighton Consolidated Refuse District. So we'll move on to the final public hearing on extension to the Refuse District, proposed extension number 16. That one, again, relates to a single property, 426 Ashbourne Road. I will ask the town clerk one more time, has the necessary legal notice been given on this matter?
This notice was also in the August 7th edition of the Daily Record.
I knew that. Legal notice having been given, I declare this public hearing on proposed extension 16 to the Brighton Consolidated Refuse District to be open, with the note that, again, the town attorney's introductory comments also be included in the record of this hearing. Again, this hearing relates to property located at 426 Ashbourne Road. Is there anyone that would like to address the board concerning proposed extension 16 to the Brighton Consolidated Refuse District?
Since I keep adding things, I'll add this. The new rate for 2024 will be $284.52 per year.
Great, thanks, Ken.
284.52 for the year.
What a savings is right. You know, I'll say this in a minute because we're still in the public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to address the board? And I see no one on Zoom either, so I declare this public hearing to be closed. Christine, one more time, I'll ask you for a motion.
One more time, this time regarding the proposed extension number 16 to the Brighton Consolidated Refuse District. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
And particularly since Councilmember Werner has seconded that, I'm just going to, this is a comment that Chris has made on any number of occasions. One of the functions of government, at least effective government, is to be, we buy in bulk effectively. We're a consolidator of services, and this is a classic case of it. Residents in the town of Brighton are saving $150, maybe more, per year by joining a refuse district, at least with the waste management rates. And here is Ken coming to my rescue. I know you can negotiate.
No, so I saw people writing down 284.52, and you're going to get your tax bill and you're going to look at it and you're going to go, wait a second, he said 284.52. Why is it more? It's going to be more, right, Earl? Because we have some administrative costs that get added on top of it. So it'll be 284.52. Do you know what our administrative costs run roughly?
not off the top of my head per.
Yeah, it's not a lot, it's a little.
Just a couple,
but-
few dollars.
But I just don't want you to go looking at your January tax bill, which is where you'll see this, and go, hey.
That's right, but it doesn't change the ultimate point, which is by consolidating, by working with you, the residents, you're going to be saving significantly on your refuse expenses. And by the way, I think it's important to say, all of us up at the table here are familiar with the tax cap. That's been in place in New York for a number of years now. We do this, we expand these districts, notwithstanding the fact that it does impact our ability to keep taxes under the tax cap as the state of New York defines it. People come to us and ask us, please provide this service, please put this charge on our tax bill. And when you jump through the hoops that the law requires, we do exactly that, knowing full well that by New York's definition, that gets counted against our ability to meet the tax cap. Knowing that full well, it's more important for us to make sure we get you services at the best possible price than it is to necessarily comply with an artificial tax cap. So we're glad you came in. These will be the last extensions for calendar year 2024, but there are still a lot of neighborhoods in town that haven't yet joined the refuse district. And I want to encourage you, those of you that are out there watching, or those of you that are here in the room that know people in other parts of the town, we will save you money by going through the process of setting up a refuse district. And Chad in our Public Works Department is Mr. Special District, certainly Mr. Refuse District. We invite you to reach out to us knowing that at this point it'll be 2025 before we'll be able to get you on board. But these are a way you can cut your cost of living by a not insignificant amount. So I'll leave with that plug. And I think we need to, if there's nobody else, I think we need to have a vote on that motion to approve extension 16. And if there's nothing further, I don't think we called that one. Did? Go ahead and do it.
Austin
Maybe you
Kennedy.
did.
Oh, Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Welch.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Did make the motion. Yes.
Supervisor Mealy.
Yes, she did make the motion, and
Yeah.
Chris
There's second.
seconded it, yes. All right. Those are the 5 public hearings on refuse districts. We do have one final public hearing tonight, and this public hearing concerns the potential removal of several town trees. I will say that each of those trees exceeds or meets or exceeds 30 inches in diameter, and by the town's tree law, a public hearing must be held before any tree of that size in the public land in the town's right-of-way can be removed. So this is a public hearing that will consider the removal and replacement of a 48-inch silver maple at 139 Greenaway, a 44-inch Norway maple at 235 South Landing Road, a 32-inch silver maple at 500 Winton Road South, a 50-inch silver maple at 272 Sylvan Road, a 30-inch Crimson Spire oak at 165 Avalon Drive, and a 38-inch white ash at 150 Wilshire Road. Each one of these will be part of one public hearing. Dan, has the necessary legal notice been given for this matter?
Yes, Supervisor, this also was in the August 7th edition of the Daily Record.
And I will ask Steve, has notice been sent to adjoining property owners as required?
Yes, it has, as required.
Thank you. Steve? Steve Zimmer, by the way, who's filling in tonight for Commissioner of Public Works Everett Garcia. Legal notice having been given, I declare the public hearing on those trees to be open, and I will ask, is there anyone here in the room that would like to speak concerning any or all of those trees? Sir, come on up. If you would, please state your name and address for the record at the podium. So Yes, please. Just so folks out there in remote land can hear you as well.
Sure. My name's Alex Wright. I'm here with my wife, Amy Wright. We're at 162 Avalon Drive. Just wanted to, thank the board for your consideration on this matter. It's listed here at 165 Avalon Drive. I believe that might be a typo. It's in our front, like, street side lawn there at 162 Avalon Drive. Yeah, so we have a baby on the way. Our main concern is the safety of the child and obviously everyone in the surrounding properties. So yeah, obviously we support the removal of that tree and would, appreciate your consideration on that matter. So that was the only comment we had.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
So the material relating to the tree, I believe, was sent properly. Does the legal notice reference the correct?
We did get a letter.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think it referenced 162 Avalon
Good.
Road. So I think we
Good.
were
So good. So when we get to the point of making a motion, I'll ask that it be conformed to that 162 address. Thank you for.
162 is the correct address. Commissioner Garcia had it as 162. I read that as 160 upside down 2, which looks like a 5.
Thank you.
Thank you.
They're pesky.
Is there anyone else here that would like to address the board concerning the public hearing on removal of trees? Again, I see no one on the Zoom. I will note that there are a couple of items of communication. One from Mr. Thomas Hack of 71 Greenaway, who wrote primarily concerning the tree at 139 Greenaway, as well as communication from Christina and David Pearson. And I have one additional email that I'm going to read and then ask that it be included in the record of the public hearing. This is from Dan and Kate McBride, who live at 142 Greenaway, which is directly across the street from the tree at 139. It reads, "Dear Everett," it's sent to Everett Garcia. I was copied in, as was Tom Hack. Dear Everett, thank you so much. Bless you. Thank you so much for your letter regarding the tree on Greenaway Road. We live directly across the street at 142 Greenaway Road. We are sorry that we are not able to be at the meeting tonight as we are out of town. The trees in our neighborhood and in so much of Brighton are a sacred treasure. Between the ice storm of '91 and the windstorm of several years ago, we have lost so many beloved trees in our neighborhood. It would be our preference that the tree be trimmed instead of removed. Obviously, safety is everyone's main concern. If it is deemed by the town that the tree must be removed, we hope that a replacement tree will be planted as soon as possible. We've lived on Greenaway Road for 38 years, and we truly appreciate all that the Public Works Department does and makes Brighton such a great place to live. Thank you. Sincerely, Kate and Dan McBride. And again, I'll pass this down to Dan and ask that it be included in the record. I think it was forwarded to each of the board members before the meeting. I'll ask, again, is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak while the public hearing is open? I guess I will ask Ken or Steve if you would like to comment specifically on that tree or on any of the trees before us tonight, particularly the request that's been made to consider trimming it rather than a removal.
Bill, I've been looking at the report, and we've seen many of these over the years, and it's just heartbreaking to see how many trees we have on every month's agenda at our Public Works Committee. meeting. I also have a very large, and I live in the same neighborhood as the Pearsons. Hi, folks. I have a very large silver maple in my side yard, and it has dropped 2 very large limbs on my home. I love that tree and would make a big difference in my property, but it's getting dangerous with all of these trees. Now, the one on Greenaway is rated a 12 risk factor, which is as bad as it gets. The ash on Wilshire also is rated a 12 risk factor, which is as bad as it gets. These trees have a lifespan, apparently, and they've reached the end of it. It's just a shame that they were all planted when the subdivisions were developed, and we're hitting that 100-year mark almost, and they're just falling apart. From what I've read of Kyle Sears' report, a 12 hazard rating, which he does not assign regularly, although all 6 of these have got a 12. That's a very high risk factor. I am very concerned about the safety in the neighborhood, and I know that they are trimming in Struckmar right now, and I've seen on this 139 Greenaway report as well that it's been trimmed many times. You can see the arms that have been cut off and such, and there are any number of different defects in the tree, having been hit by lightning, with birds nesting in it, with cracks and potential fractures. I'm very, I feel very much the same way as the folks regarding the Greenaway tree, that you hate to lose any of them, but there comes a time when, for the protection of the public, we've just got to take them down and then replant them, but replant them not all in the same species as was done 100 years ago. And that way their lifespan will be staggered, and we'll have a much healthier urban forest.
And if I may add to that, the Tree Council, which is a function of the Conservation Board, is an assembly of highly knowledgeable community members, and they are advocating and advising town staff on just that, on ensuring that we have a mixed variety of trees, replacing the ones that come down. They are also working collaboratively with the town to identify ways to help accelerate the replacement of the trees, and to educate the community on how to care for the trees when they are placed. So it's a multi-branched aspect.
Unintended.
Oh, I was waiting to do that all night. But, many branches coming off of the whole process of considering the trees, their safety, and protection of the community. So the decisions are not made lightly, but they are made in a very informed way.
Any further comments for the record, either from members of the public or staff? Ken?
Just give me a second. I'm just scanning something.
These trees, Supervisor, I found records that we paid $12 for the silver maples when we planted them, say, 100 years ago.
I was just going to say, do you remember what year that was?
I don't remember what year that was, but
Were you there, Steve?
I was not here. The lifespan of the silver maples are about 70 years, so anything above 70 years is on borrowed time, as far as the health and safety concerns.
A lot of properties. There's a lot of properties on Avalon.
The one other thing I will say is that a number of years ago, residents in the Greenaway, Cheswell neighborhood came to the town after a large number of almost all silver maples in your neighborhood were identified as being problematic. And in response, and raising concern about the impact of taking so many silver maples down at one time would have on the streetscape. And we did make a decision then to try to prioritize the ones that were in the most difficult condition, but not take them all down at a single time, but shared with the neighborhood that over the next several years we would no doubt be continuing to have to take some of the silver maples down. But as someone said earlier, with a priority of replanting them, either in front of the same property or very close to the same property, so that over time we would have a mixed urban streetscape along this and other neighborhoods that our trees are coming down. Ken?
Thank you, Supervisor. Mr. Amon, hi. Could you tell the board relative to the Avalon property and tree, what was contained in the actual legal notice that was published?
165.
Any other information other than that? Does it describe the tree?
Just the addresses that were in, the addresses from the, well, let me double check.
Can we look at it?
Typically, it's just the addresses. I closed it. I thought I was done. Yeah, just to consider the removal of town trees at, and then the list of addresses.
Got it. So for the information of the town board, that was a typographical error. All of the materials relate to a tree at 162 Avalon. More importantly, there is no 165 Avalon. That address does not exist. So it clearly was a typo, clearly was an error, and since all the materials relate to 162, since the owners of 162 did actually get notice, I think it would be valid to go forward with that tree along with the others.
Thank you, Ken.
Yep.
Any other comments during the public hearing, either from members of the public, remote or otherwise? Members of the board, members of staff? Again, I just want to clarify, all of these trees are going to be replaced in some nearby location with a tree species that is consistent with our current street tree models, and to the extent residents want to have some input as to what that might be, we do
We have a list of
dialogue.
approved street trees. This year we planted about 10 different varieties, 12 different varieties, and we're going to be up to about 57 trees we're planting this year.
That's great. That's great. I understand these replacements may or may not get planted this year. They may wind up in 2024.
Correct. The trees we're taking down this year, we're about a month out on the takedowns, so it's going to be late in the season by the time we get to the planting, so it's safer to plant them in the spring.
Okay.
For better growth.
One last time, any other comments? Hearing none, I declare this public hearing to be closed. Robin, I'll ask you to make a motion.
Certainly. On the matter regarding the removal and replacement of a 48-inch silver maple at 139 Greenaway Road, a 44-inch Norway maple at 235 South Landing Road, a 32-inch silver maple at 500 Winton Road South, a 50-inch silver maple at 272 Sylvan Road, a 30-inch Crimson Spire oak at 162 Avalon Drive, and 30-inch white ash at 150 Wilshire Road. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
Second.
And just to clarify, I would ask both Councilmember Wilt and Councilmember Corrado, I know you read the correct address, Robin. The printed resolution says 165, so I just want to be clear. Your motion and your second of that motion incorporate the corrected address of 162 Avalon Drive.
Yes.
Great. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on that matter? Hearing none, I'll ask the town clerk to please call the roll on that motion on the...
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for everybody that gave us input. And we're a Tree City, USA. We have been for 21 years. Our treescape is really important. As someone who used to live very close to your neighborhood and walked through your neighborhood on a regular basis, and I did go out and specifically and look at the tree on Greenaway today. It's a neighborhood that's really known for its treescape, and we want to make sure that that will continue to be the case, all of our neighborhoods, for many years to come. So thank you. I'll move on to communications now. Can I have a motion to receive and file the communications?
So moved?
Second.
Let me walk through them, and then we'll have a little discussion on a couple of them. First is from Jennifer Cesario, the Controller of Monroe County, concerning second quarter sales tax receipts. Next is a letter from David Kubiak, who is the Transportation Project Manager for the Monroe County Department of Transportation, relating to the Elmwood Avenue Bicycle Project. Next is communication from our Finance Director, Earl Johnson, relating to the issuance of debt on the Brighton Memorial Library roof. And finally, a draft of a proposed local law with communication from Town Attorney Ken Gordon that would, as we discussed at our last meeting, as we've discussed at a few meetings, reduce the townwide speed limit to 25 miles per hour on most of the town streets and roads in the town of Brighton. Those are the communications that are being received and filed tonight. Let me go back. The Finance Director and I were a little surprised and concerned, and a dialogue continues to be going on as to the second quarter tax receipts. It seems as though the towns in Monroe County got less than we had expected. I've talked about how what had been a very, very strong sales tax receipts for the last couple of years had really flattened out, but honestly, we did not expect a drop of the magnitude of actually over 300,000 from the same quarter in 2022. So we're trying to get a better sense as to how that number came to be. But in the meantime, we've talked about two of our revenue sources, sales tax revenues and mortgage tax revenues, as being more volatile, and this is an indication of that. The letter relating to bike lanes, and this is correspondence that really incorporates and culminates a series of engagements between the town and the Monroe County DOT concerning the Elmwood Avenue reconstruction and reconfiguration. We had a series of meetings with them, and I really appreciate the county having taken the time to listen to us, to have responded to us, and in some cases to have incorporated suggestions or questions that we had into the project. And I want to really focus in particular on the 12 Corners end of the project, because it is in such close proximity to our schools. And we wanted to make sure that at the very least, cyclists riding eastbound on Elmwood Avenue would be able to safely get to 12 Corners Middle School and the high school. And our initial concern was because the plan showed the bike lane ending before you got to Hollywood. And that would have left bicyclists sort of out in the cold, if you will. We identified to the county the fact that if the bike lane continued past Hollywood, it would allow cyclists to head down, to turn right or south on Hollywood, and then very quickly turn left on Greenwich or eastbound on Greenwich. That would get them to a pedestrian or bicycle activated crossing signal very close to the intersection of Greenwich and Winton Road. And that would allow bicyclists coming eastbound rather on Elmwood to get to the schools, to get to the middle school, to get to the high school, and of course to get to other things on that side of the street, 12 Corners Presbyterian Church, the farmers market. We conveyed that to the county and they responded, "You're right." And we also indicated that we would be planning to establish our second bicycle boulevard that would incorporate that portion of Hollywood, incorporate the Hollywood and Rhinecliff corridor, and that's a project we've contemplated in our implementation of our Bike Walk Brighton active transportation plan, that we would build additional bike boulevards, and this we anticipate will be our next one. But I appreciate the county responding that way. This letter is a series of engagements and responses to comments that we made, and I appreciate the fact that the county, on really pretty quick notice as these projects generate, was able to generate detailed plans for the reconfiguration, for the road diet, for the bike lanes. The road diet, the 3-lane, this is one travel lane in each direction with a center turn lane. It has been shown repeatedly that that is a traffic calming setup. And goodness knows, anybody that knows Elmwood Avenue knows it needs some traffic calming. Not only speed, but also drivers going through traffic signals. And the two go together. If you're going a 50 on a 35, you may be more likely when that traffic signal turns to just keep barreling along. We don't want you to do that. This is a road that at one end, goes to two of our schools, has important neighborhood crossings, has crossings to get to the Brickyard Trail, the Highland Crossing Trail. We want to make sure that people drive safely. We want to make sure that bicyclists can use Elmwood Avenue. So thank you to the county for that letter. The next letter from our Director of Finance relates to the issuance of debt for the library roof project. We previously issued a bond resolution for this project. We also received what's called a SAM grant for the state of New York that will pay a portion of this project. So we are anticipating the issuance of a bond in the amount of $285,000 to pay for the remainder of the cost of that roof project, and that's described here in Earl's letter, and then finally, as I mentioned before, Ken's letter relating to the townwide speed limit law. Any questions or further comments on any of those communications?
Supervisor, if I may add one additional
Sure.
comment regarding the county DOT's response to the town's input on the project. And this is in no way to detract from the wonderful improvements that we will experience when this is complete. But one auxiliary aspect of our review of the plan was South Clinton between Highland and Elmwood. County documents at this time suggest that there's been a road diet in that section of South Clinton. There has not been. The county did acknowledge that their documentation was in error and that they would revise their documents to say that no road diet has been performed, but rather that they had striped the shoulders in 2015, which in no way approaches a road diet, of course. They note that the map will be revised to remove this section, and South Clinton Avenue will be evaluated the next time there is a capital or maintenance project, per their Complete Streets policy. I don't find this entirely reassuring, given that no specific timeline is provided, and given that that intersection, that stretch of South Clinton leads to, is a complicated, dangerous intersection, even with the valuable road diet that is happening on Elmwood Avenue. And I strongly encourage us as a body and the community to press the county DOT to consider accelerating their, well, one, consider sharing their timeline, two, accelerating it if it is not imminent, which I suspect, and three, consider some alternative approaches to road diet in that section. Restriping is not quite the project that Elmwood Avenue is, and could be addressed at reasonable cost and in a reasonable amount of time. So,
Thanks, Christine, and thank you for, raising that as part of your concerns about the Elmwood-Clinton intersection. I agree with what you're saying, and I certainly hope, I understand they want to modify their maps. I hope that having had this brought to their attention, that they will give further consideration to reconfiguring Clinton. Years and years ago, during Supervisor Frankel's administration, we dealt with the county in what became, sort of a polyglot of 2-lane, 3-lane Clinton Avenue. I think there may have been some expectation of development patterns that really have not and probably will not take place. There are parcels that are being developed. Obviously, the parcel across from the Tops Plaza is one of them, but I don't think there's anywhere close to the kind of traffic volume that would make it impossible to incorporate a road diet. I would also note that not only at the south end of that link do you have some challenges, but at the north end. You're coming down a hill, you're coming out of the city with sort of almost an S curve where there's some real issues with visibility coming through the Highland intersection. And then you enter into a downhill stretch that frankly encourages you to, you go from the 30 in the city to a higher speed limit, but it widens into a 4-lane because you do have a much more sane configuration in the city. You come around that bend, you hit Highland, and you go into a different configuration, one that encourages speeding. Unfortunately, I know there was an accident right in that segment of Clinton Avenue just today. So I agree, and I'm going to suggest that we do a follow-up, and I'll certainly invite all of us to sign a letter encouraging the DOT to take further action with respect to Clinton and to look at the ways they can do it before an actual capital project takes place. I have to admit, I have not looked at the brand new capital plan for Monroe County in sufficient detail to see whether they're planning, whether that's in there. I don't believe that it is.
Not at this time.
So I don't think we can, and I didn't hear anything in the county's response that said it's not appropriate for a road diet. I think what they said is, well, it would be hard to do it now. We'd rather do it later as part of another project.
Yes.
And I would ask them, they've been so responsive on this project. I'm hopeful that going forward, not as a full capital project, but as I don't know what you'd call it, but it's a road diet. It's a reconfiguration of a street
a
that
modest remediation.
would better be served by a different configuration.
And I'd like to think that the error in the county documentation currently is an error of anticipation of implementing the road diet. So we'll go with that.
So we have a motion to receive and file those communications. Any further comment on any of them? Hearing none, Dan, if you would please call the roll.
Councilmember
on-
DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. We'll now go to committee reports. Robin, Community Services.
Thank you, Bill. The Community Services Committee met last Wednesday, August 16th. Among the items that we discussed were under continuing business park issues. The Parks Department is currently a bit short-staffed as our seasonal laborers have largely returned to school and we have some staff out on leave. Of note, we were only able to ever fill 3 of the 4 seasonal labor positions, so we're still in the market for seasonal assistance. In addition to its regular maintenance tasks, the department is currently working on fall athletic field use requests, moving and spreading 400 yards of certified playground mulch to our various playgrounds, staging equipment and supplies for the Corbett's Glen South End Trail rebuild. The anticipated start date of that work is the week of August 28th. Installing a new accessible water fountain at Buckland Park Concession Building. That work has been completed. Ongoing mowing and trimming schedules from which there has been no break as the grass continues to grow at rates commensurate with springtime conditions. The park staff is working on the trail approach and spent some time on S-curves on the Lehigh Valley Trail, where the department has installed some boulders to try to curb illicit ATV usage. The staff has also been keeping abreast of downed trees on the Highland Crossing Trail. Finally, at the request of the Conservation Board, Park Superintendent has had a fruitful meeting with the foreman of our vendor maintenance crews to communicate the concern about damaging trees with tractor mower decks. In addition, we'll develop a plan to determine whether mulching significant trees is a feasible means to safeguard park trees moving forward. An update to our recreation programs. Summer camp was wildly successful with offerings back to full capacity, with the exception of the French Road site, which was not quite full, but that was in part due to a lack of a playground as a result of construction at the facility. As in past years, staff was very strong and knowledgeable this year. The Recreation Department worked with Brighton Central School District to provide access and subsidies for refugee and migrant families, adding to the socioeconomic diversity of campers. Staff handled the language access with aplomb. Summer concerts at Buckland have concluded, with 3 acts having fallen victim to the rainy weather, unfortunately. As always, we thank our sponsors, performers, and attendees from the community. The Town Hall pool is now closed for the season, with plans to investigate additional options for water recreation in ensuing seasons. The Recreation Department is working on fall programs and events with a return of Winter Family Bingo, Trunk or Treat, and the addition of new opportunities for seniors. Seniors had a pickle party yesterday at Buckland Pavilion. Bill, would you like to?
It was great fun. I even wore my green tie. I didn't have any pickles on it, but it was green. It was wonderful. They had a taste testing of various sweet, dill, and hot pickles. They had a pickling demonstration, learning how to pickle food. I left before the pickle ball demonstration, but they also had a pickle ball demonstration. So all things pickled were celebrated yesterday at
Sounds
Buckland
very
Park.
fun. Sounds very
And we had a great turnout.
excellent.
A lot of our seniors and friends of our seniors were there.
Yeah, so
I might add one of our.
Oh, yes,
guests.
I'm sorry. Christine was there as well.
Yes, the senior I live with was very excited about the pickle party and had it on the calendar. The second it came up in the newsletter from the Recreation Department, we attended, had a blast, and we also had the opportunity to celebrate the 102nd birthday of one of the senior participants. It was pretty remarkable. So, and she was as lively as probably livelier than most of us at the pickle party.
Jeannie actually turned 102 today, and I did need to make a quick escape from our budget workshop in order to go over to the landing of Brighton, where she lives, and present her a proclamation noting that today is Jeannie Dooney Day in the town of Brighton, celebrating 102, and her family was there, and residents and staff. We had a blast. So 2 straight days celebrating.
She did not suggest that pickles were the secret to long life, but you decide.
She was sampling.
It sounds like so much fun. So the community garden has been wildly successful as well this season, with all plots reserved and a gangbuster growing season as well. In update to our winter's farmers market, there is a big push to hang the wall and ceiling tiles on the connector building and complete the project in time for the end of the outdoor market season. All fingers crossed. And we are still waiting on a structural assessment of the milk barn on site. An update to our Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity Advisory Board. The IDEA Board will again share space with Council Member on Your Corner on Sunday, August 27th, with plans for a school supply drive. In particular, we are requesting some common items that transcend all grades and school supply lists, such as water bottles, number 2 pencils, black pens, blue pens, wide-ruled spiral paper-bound notebooks, and lined binder paper loose leaf. So please do contribute those if you have, and also donations are also welcome. Those supplies will be distributed throughout the school year as students in need run out. An update to our clean energy community priority actions and sustainability funds. The Finance and Administrative Services Committee has recommended the acceptance of a $10,000 NYSERDA Clean Energy Community Grant for after reaching the requisite 3,000 point threshold, and that grant will be used to replace the antiquated oil heating system at Carmen Clark Lodge at Brighton Town Park with an air source heat pump. That agenda item is on tonight's under consideration in tonight's agenda for the town board. We are working with the parks superintendent to schedule installation of that air pump in light of facilities rentals. And also of note, the Climate Action Plan final draft was released on August 18th, and it is currently under review by town board members, the Sustainability Oversight Committee, the IDEA Board, and the Conservation Board. In update to upcoming events, we had another event that I sadly missed out on. The first ever Mighty Motors DPW Open House occurred on Thursday, August 17th. Would somebody who is in attendance like to give an update on that?
It was great, but I'm going to turn the microphone over to Steve. No?
Oh.
Well,
Thank you. It was a great event. We had over 440 people showed up, and parking was an issue a little bit, but everything went smoothly, and the rain held off. So it was great. The kids had a blast. Playing in the dirt pile mostly, not in the look.
I was going to mention that the most popular attraction, was this big dirt pile, and Steve, you and your team over there, you had lots of Tonka trucks and similar kind of things.
The team did it all for me.
It was great.
Can't say enough for those.
Well, and a lot of them were there, really taking great pride in the work they do and their vehicles or their exhibits that were there. It was a wonderful, wonderful evening. Had a blast.
Hopefully they'll do it again.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much. And other upcoming events, our Halloween trunk or treat, as I mentioned earlier, will be at the Brighton Town Hall Public Safety Wing, 2300 Elmwood Avenue on Saturday, October 21st from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. As a result of that event, our semi-annual electronics recycling and secure document shredding event will be moved to Sunday, October 22nd from 9 a.m. to 12 noon at the Brighton Highway Department parking lot, 1941 Elmwood Avenue. And finally, our Drug Enforcement Agency semi-annual pharmaceutical take-back event will occur at the Brighton Town Hall Public Safety Wing, 2300 Elmwood Avenue, on Saturday, October 28th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. The next meeting of the Community Services Committee will be on Wednesday, September 20th, 9:30 a.m. at the Brookside Recreation Center. We do ask that when accessing the Recreation Center, you come through the Winton Road entrance. And as always, members of the public are encouraged to attend.
Thanks, Robin. You know, one of the things you mentioned, the challenges hiring our seasonal folks this year. One of the new programs, and I do see our Chief Diversity Officer who's on the Zoom, Miriam Moore, but a series of discussions with our Chief Diversity Officer and a number of local community organizations. And one of the things that came out of that was the fact that the town hired 3 this year participants in the programs held by the Center for Youth. And I think 2 were in the Highway Department and 1 was in the Rec Department, and had the opportunity to speak with the Center for Youth's Executive Director, Elaine Spall, and she was so grateful that the town had reached out and made employment opportunities available to their program participants. And, you know, when we do these summer hires, one of the things we never know, but we have we have some history when opportunities for full-time employment become available. If we have worked with prospective people through summer programs, that can be a leg up on getting a full-time job. So I'm glad we were able to work with the center. I think we're already making plans for expanding the opportunities to work with the Center for Youth and perhaps other organizations next year. So kudos. Finance, Jason.
Yes, the Finance and Administrative Services Committee, met last Wednesday, August 16th. Each of the items discussed during the committee will appear on tonight's agenda for further discussion and presentation. In addition, we also held 2 of our budget workshops last Wednesday and the second one occurring today, where the department heads had the opportunity to present to the full town board their budgetary requests for fiscal year 2024, and further consideration will be given, and then those budget hearings will take place in October for ultimate adoption at our second meeting in October of this year. Our next meeting of the Finance and Administrative Services Committee will be held on Wednesday, September 6th at 8:30 in the morning. We meet here in the main auditorium at Town Hall, and the public is invited to attend.
Thanks very much, Jason. Public Safety, Chris.
Bill, the Public Safety Committee has not met since our last town board meeting, where I reported on the August meeting. Our next Public Safety Services Committee will be September 12th at 0800 here in the auditorium, and the public is invited.
Thank you. Christine, Public Works.
Similarly, Public Works has not met since the last town board meeting. The next meeting will be September 12th at 9 a.m. following Public Safety. A 2-for-1 morning.
Sounds good. Thank you. Moving to new business, Jason, reading and approval of claims.
Yes, earlier today I reviewed claims totaling $676,154.12. Notable claims include Iroquois Rock Products / Dolomite Group in the amount of $69,776.53, representing payment for asphalt for the parking lot for the farmers market. Also to Terry Tree Service in the amount of $26,432, representing payment for a bucket truck rental with a qualified operator. Also to Villager Construction in the amount of $11,540, representing payment for a paver rental with operator and screedman for Whitney Lane, and milling service with operator and groundsman for Antlers Drive. Yes, screedman is a word, and is a person who operates a screed, which is a device used for leveling asphalt. Learn something new every day. Also to Baker and Taylor.
So did I.
Yes.
It does not have to be asphalt.
Oh, okay.
Concrete.
I stand corrected. So you've got your phone out, though.
No. I've done
Probably done it.
screeding myself.
There you go. Baker and Taylor, the amount of that claim was $14,483.27, representing payment for adult, young adult, and children's books for the library. And finally, to Rochester Asphalt Materials, the amount of $4,191.04, representing payment for asphalt for patching and paving of Doncaster Road. The claims all appear to be in order, and I move that they be approved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll on that motion.
Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Christine?
Yes, the next matter seeks to award a bid contract to Keeler Construction Company Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $99,200 for the East Avenue Sidewalk Improvement Project, and authorize the finance director to make necessary budget amendments to fund said project. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
The low bid from Keeler was $99,200. This is a project that we have a community development block grant for, awarded by Monroe County in the amount of $84,898. So there is a 14,000 plus funding gap that the town will have to make up. It's great, you know, that we've got basically 85% of the funding of this important sidewalk project covered by this grant. But I think it's important to note that, and it's certainly something that I fully support. Earl, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to.
We will propose an amendment to close that gap, and there are several strategies we can use, which we will discuss in FASC.
Good, thank you. We have a motion and a second to accept the bid. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Christine, why don't you do another one?
Yes, the next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to approve a one-year renewal for refuse district collection with Waste Management of New York at a unit price increase of 2.43%, effective January 1, 2024 through December 31, 2024. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
And this was referenced earlier for our refuse district collection. Great pricing, and compared to some of the inflation numbers we've seen, a relatively small increase. We've got a formula that's set out, and you know, it worked out for us very well. We have a motion and a second here. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Jason?
Yes, the next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to enter into an agreement with Bergman Architects, Engineers, Planners for the development of the Rochester Multiversity Concept in an amount not to exceed $74,795. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
Second.
Again, this is a project that we have grant funding for, and it's a project that puts into place implementation of one of the projects called out in our Envision Brighton 2028 plan. It's a trail project connecting three very important destinations in the western part of Brighton, the U of R, RIT, and MCC, taking advantage of the existing Lehigh Valley Trail and Erie Canal Trail, but making sure we have good connections to those three schools. And that was a core concept discussed in that Envision Brighton plan, so I'm pleased to see it moving forward, and we'll engage with those three schools as well as with the West Brighton residents as this project moves forward. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Robin, the next one.
Certainly. The next matter seeks to accept a grant from NYSERDA in the amount of $10,000 for the replacement of the Carmen Clark Lodge furnace and authorize the Finance Department to make any necessary budget amendments. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
Second.
And of course, this is the project that Robin referenced in her report. We'll be replacing that old, inefficient furnace that dates back to the construction of the lodge with a heat pump system. Good. And great work getting those points to get us those grants. Further discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Chris?
Next item is to reject bids for the 2023 cured-in-place pipe project and authorize rebidding the contract. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
See, this is we originally let the contract for a steam cure, which had caused some concerns by neighbors, and now it's hot water cured.
Water cured is the way to go, with less fumes that way, but we're going to go back out to bid and see. These came in at higher than the county contract bid numbers, so.
And the county contract, if I understand it, is based on steam curing.
It is.
Yeah, so that's the reason we didn't just immediately jump to the county contract. We'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens here.
You have to educate me on curing of
Well, you had that other word that none of the rest of us had ever heard of.
But I didn't know whether
Down cold.
that I screed or no.
We have a motion that is seconded to reject those bids. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. And finally, our last matter, Robin.
Certainly. The next matter seeks to set a public hearing for September 27th, 2023 for the removal and replacement of a 40-inch black walnut at 259 Ashburn Road, a 54-inch silver maple at 224 Mayflower Drive, and a 34 honey locust at 155 Dunroven Lane. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
Second.
Discussion? These have gone through the tree council and will now come before the town board. Hearing no discussion, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Matters of the supervisor, I already discussed a couple things. Matters of the town attorney, I know we have an executive session.
We do have that, but other than that, I have nothing. Thank you, Supervisor.
Thank you. Matters of the clerk.
Just a heads up to folks, the school taxes are not expected to be available until September 1st. So if you're calling before then, I don't know either. So hang on for that. Expected to be mailed by the printer on the 31st. So they'll be along shortly, but the first day of collection will be September 1st because we'll know the numbers on that date. That's all.
Thanks, Dan. Matters of the town board. Can I then have a motion to go into executive session to discuss the employment of particular people?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Thank you, Sarah and Ally, our ASL interpreters. We appreciate your being here. I do not expect we'll be coming back out into open session after our executive session. So we'll see you then at our next town board meeting, Wednesday night, September 13th, 3 weeks from tonight. Have a great night, everybody. See you then.